Let's talk to Jason. Hey there, Jason. You are on with Promise and Matt.
Hi, how are you?
Exhausted.
Doing well.
But that's my
So,
problem, not
do
yours.
you want to tell us what God you believe in and why?
I am a Christian.
Cool. How come?
Why? The why would be, well, there's many whys, but I wanted to, just to avoid too much preface, probably hone in on just more secular arguments, time.
Well, wait a second. Instead of like honing in on an argument, can you just tell us why you believe?
Yes, well, no, I can't because there's too many whys to that. But we can focus on a few of the main whys that are the most convincing to me.
How about starting with the best one?
Apart from anecdote, it would be time and consciousness.
Wait, those two things are completely different.
Yes.
So let's start with time. Why does time convince you there's a God?
Well, I know I'm quite familiar with you, Matt, and your many discussions on the matter of time.
Sorry, Jason.
But yes.
All I asked was, why does time convince you there's a God? I don't need to know how familiar you are with me or anything else. Well, how familiar you are with me is irrelevant to absolutely everything you're going to be saying, right?
Yeah. I'm just expressing that.
Cool.
I know you know a lot about this already. So basically, I would be talking about the cosmological argument.
Wow, never mind. I don't understand. And I apologize. Let me do this real quick, and then I will shut up and take a back seat.
Yep.
I'm exhausted from people doing, not you, Jason, just hang on. From people doing this preamble of telling me what they want to do, or here's what I'm going to do, or here's the background, or whatever. Why does time convince you that there's a God? Go.
The impossibility of an infinite regress in the space-time continuum.
Cool. Thanks.
So, basically, moving on with that, you cannot have an eternal amount of past moments. And since time, matter, and space are in symbiosis, that's why it's called the continuum, of course.
Jason?
Matter itself is dependent on time. So if time has beginning, then matter has beginning.
Jason, how many past moments does God have?
Since God is immaterial, he would not be subject to the same idea of time that we have, or of sequence of events within our realm of reality.
How is this not special pleading?
Well, it isn't, because the only way we can come to a conclusion, as epistemology proves, is to come to the best possible answer to our questions. We're never going to know for sure.
No.
But how is that not special pleading?
Sure. This isn't about knowing for sure.
Well, if we are speaking metaphysically, the only way to come to any conclusion is via extrapolation and arriving at a conclusion that garners the best evidence.
Jason, do any of us have any capability to investigate beyond the boundaries of space-time?
Via extrapolation, or somewhat of a algebraic philosophical process, we can determine that there is a beginning of time and space and matter, meaning
that's not what
there must have been
that's not even in the ballpark of what I asked. To whatever extent our current understanding of cosmology suggests that time and space began at roughly the same moment, because we can't explore prior to the blank time. I'm asking you, if God exists outside of space-time, does anyone have the capability to explore beyond the boundaries of space-time?
Not with our five sensory apparatus. No, it would be philosophical.
What way could we explore it?
via philosophical extrapolation of what we do know, like anything that we cannot sense
Extrapolation
with our
from what
five
we
senses.
do know to what we don't know about something we can't investigate is, for me, completely useless. The notion of an infinite regress. I mean, Carl Sagan famously answered that there isn't any necessary problem to it. But time doesn't actually work that way. A regress is specifically us looking backwards. If time began from our perspective at the instantiation of the expansion of space-time, then anything outside of that is beyond our ability to investigate. It would not be time. It might be meta time. It could be, it's like saying, when I first turned on my Sims game, space-time within their framework begins for them. But they have no ability to see space-time out here in my framework, or to even come up with a way to model it or suggest that it might exist. They don't even have a way to say, hey, there must be something beyond our space-time.
Right. So I'd like to possibly, I want to bring up consciousness, because is consciousness material, do you believe? I'm sorry, what's that?
You want to bring up consciousness because the time thing failed? Okay, what is it about consciousness?
Well, no. This is piggybacking, because consciousness material? Do you believe consciousness is material or part of?
I don't believe consciousness exists or is material. Consciousness is the label we put on something the brain does.
Well, what I'm saying is we have evidence of consciousness, obviously, because we are conscious, but that is not. It's not.
I'm sorry.
Material.
I answered your question.
Did you hear what Matt just said?
Yeah.
What? Yes, I am positing that consciousness is immaterial.
How did Matt just define consciousness? What did Matt just say about consciousness?
I'm not exactly sure what he means.
Yes, exactly.
By that.
And
That's
I think it's important for no. Can you? What do you think Matt thinks consciousness is?
Right. That's what I'm asking, and I didn't get
Okay. He answered it so clearly. He answered it extremely clearly.
Because I'm
sorry. Could you repeat what you?
Jason, stop talking.
I didn't ask what consciousness was.
Stop talking, Jason. I'm trying to answer your question again, since you didn't pay any fucking attention the first fucking time. I said
I muted him for a minute.
that I am not convinced that consciousness exists as a thing, but I am convinced that consciousness is a label we apply to what the brain does. I don't know how you can say that I didn't give you an answer or a complete answer. I'm saying consciousness, from my perspective, is a description of what the brain does.
Do you believe it's material?
Jason, I literally just answered that right before that. And that was,
so you don't
are you listening at all to the words coming out of my fucking mouth when I say I'm not convinced that it's material? I'm convinced that it's a label that we apply to what the brain does. If you're just sitting there with a fucking script, ignoring what I say, this call is not going to end well for you.
Yeah, I understand. And I am listening to what you're saying, but I'm trying to
show me some fucking evidence. Show me evidence, Jason, that you are listening to what I say.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is you believe consciousness is what the brain does, and that is a metaphysical concept. It's not material, and I agree with you. So then we have evidence of something beyond material with just simply our consciousness.
No.
Which refutes materialism.
For something of the material existing, I said I do not believe it exists as a thing, qua thing, or that it is material. It is, in my view, what the brain does. The brain does all kinds of things like hunger, thirst, emotions, things like that. They're not real.
Absolutely.
They don't exist absent a brain. Show me consciousness absent a brain.
That would be God.
Then show me God.
I believe.
Then show me God.
Well,
I just asked you, Jason. I just said, show me consciousness absent a brain, and you said that would be God. So show me.
Yes. Well, we require a brain to remember experiences and make decisions
No,
based upon those
Jason,
memories.
show me God.
Okay. Well, I said that to piggyback off of my initial position, which is you run into a block wall when you extrapolate
When you talk to
the
you,
space-time continuum into the past. So you run into a block
not my
wall.
problem. That's a
because you
problem for God or the people positing a God. That's not my problem.
No, but it implies and we're trying to determine the most probable reality of this is that there is
No.
an existence
No, I'm
outside
not.
of time and
I'm not
matter.
trying to find the most probable reality. I'm trying to figure out what is reasonable to believe.
That's the same thing, and it's the only
No, it's not.
way we can come to conclusion.
No, it's not. You may not be able to determine what is most probable. You may not have enough information to reach a conclusion.
But that's our goal. And if we come to a block wall with materialism, then
Then you don't
that
get to make up
implies
a God. You don't get to say, I've hit a wall, so I'm going to say it's God.
let's not say it's God. Let's say it's something beyond material.
Why would you say it's something at all? You are in a position
Yeah,
where you
you're
have
correct.
a question that you don't know the answer to.
You're correct. It isn't. God is not a thing, and that you're right. That implies an energy of some or matter. He's not a thing. He created things, and he is bound by the time that is applied to that material that he created. And that is what it implies via Occam's razor. And you can always come to Hitchens' razor after you've exhausted your Occam's razor and come to a position. You can always use Hitchens' razor right after that, and then you'd never come to a conclusion.
Jason, what is your evidence that a God exists?
The block wall. Well, the one I'm talking about is the block wall you hit with materialism, which demands an existence beyond space, time, and matter, which is by my definition God.
Why?
Because you cannot have an eternal amount of past moments whilst existing in the present. Because you'd never make it to the present.
No, this is a version of
just
Zeno's
special
paradox,
pleading.
like saying the arrow can't reach the goal because it has to cross half the distance and then half the distance and then half the distance and then half the distance. You have created a basic error.
Yes. Right, but Planck,
you can't say
Planck's
right,
theory actually.
You can't. When I tell you you've created a basic error, you can't say right, but.
But Planck's calculations determined that length actually comes to a point where you can no longer divide it. That's I think it's 10 to the negative 35th or something like that. And that's another.
That is within the physical universe. That is not in any way applicable to an abstraction. Like there's an infinite series of numbers between the integers 1 and 2, correct?
Theoretically. Not actually.
Not theoretically. It is a fact. There is an infinite series of numbers between the integers 1 and 2.
But numbers themselves are theoretical. They're an extrapolation.
I am so fucking done with you, Jason. You refuse to answer questions honestly. And every time I point out a problem with your thinking, you try to spin it in a different direction with something else. The fact of the matter is, in mathematics, numbers are abstracts. And there is an infinite series of numbers between the integer 1 and 2. The only reliable, the only true response to that is, yes, that's correct.
That is correct.
Then why didn't you fucking say that a minute ago instead of trying to tap dance to something else?
Well, I mean, that I would have to say that it is theoretical because you'd never be able to actually encapsulate the eternity within a number. And mathematically,
you don't know what a theory is. You don't know what a theory is. You don't know what's theoretical. Okay. My apologies. I'm going to take a breath. Promise?
Yes, sir.
Please do whatever you want. I have zero interest in having any further conversation with him, but I am interested in what you think.
I'm still trying to figure out, back to the very beginning of the conversation, how this isn't all special pleading, because you've still made all these allowances that you won't allow for the universe, for the God that you're claiming the universe is sourced from. And to me, this just sounds like some combo of special pleading and God of the gaps and all of that. And I haven't heard anything to the contrary.
Yeah, we're never going to be able to box God in. Because again, by definition, he's beyond material.
If by box God in, you mean provide any evidence that a God exists at all, then yeah, that seems to be how this is going. So that's not, if you don't have an answer to how this isn't special pleading, I'm personally ready to move on from the phone call. It sounds like Matt is too.
Absolutely. And I honestly enjoyed the conversation.
You're the only one.
Yeah.
And, well, my apologies. But, if you want to continue on, we could speak about the question of evil or why that.
No, Jason, I really just wanted the questions I wanted the ones we already had asked. Yeah. And we didn't, if it was, we didn't answer the ones that I did have. So yeah, with that, I do think we're ready to move on. You can call next time I'm on Chewed Gum if you want. That's on Tuesday nights. We're looking for theist callers over there, and you can call back then. Thanks, Jason.
Alrighty. I appreciate it. And have a better day, Matt.
Bite me.
That I don't understand. It feels like sometimes we have callers that, not that I'm trying to, I have no idea how much Jason truly believes or not, whatever. I'm not going to pretend that I can read his mind. But it feels like we have some callers that call in that truly, truly believe and are just like having this conversation with us. And sometimes it goes poorly still because maybe their answers are just so painful and not helpful that the call goes badly. But it feels like they're answering questions, or they're at least attempting to be honest. Sometimes I feel like we have callers where it's a sport to them. They're like, well, let me try this argument. Like Pokemon cards where I've never played Pokemon, so I don't know why I'm using that as an example. I don't know how it works, but where they're like pulling some card, like, okay, now I'll pull Occam's razor against your hitch. It feels like they're not actually engaging with what's going on. And that's really frustrating because then we get nowhere, then I'm still like, how is this not special pleading? And it's like, well, we could talk about the problem of evil. I don't think we can. If you can't even tell me how this isn't special pleading, I don't want to have another conversation with you about another topic where you're going to special plead again,
It's wild because we got to, God has basically prevented itself from being detectable.
Hey, thanks for watching that clip. Did you know we saw what you were doing when you watched it?
We saw all of it. All of it. All of it.
All of it. So you're going to want to pay us hush money over at patreon.com/calltheline, where you can buy our silence and watch our patron exclusive podcast.